It's Lee Tarrier here from pwmania.com, and I'm with a very, very special guest today. The one, the only Simon Miller. Simon, how are you, man? You all right?
I'm very well, thank you, dude. I appreciate you having me on. How are you, man?
I am good. I'm looking forward to Christmas, but I'm looking forward to unboxing. I'm looking forward to seeing you fight at unboxing against an enemy of yours, should I say, Tate Mayfairs. This feud that begun last year at last year's unboxing, really in the match that happened there. We're now getting it in a street fight. How do you feel going into it?
Well, it's funny you say that because in many ways it did start last year, but in many ways it started back in like 2019. Like
Wow.
genuinely, Tate and I have been fighting on the independent British wrestling scene. Yeah, pre-pandemic. I remember it pre-pandemic. I remember it post-pandemic. I remember getting off a plane after I'd been in America for a week, and I went straight to a show, and I took him on. And
Right.
like yeah, exactly, I flew back. I flew back to kick Tate Mayfair's ass. So for me, like I know everyone in wrestling says this all the time, but it is true. There's a personal nature. There's a personal nature to this in the sense that our feud, our program, our hatred, whichever word you want to use, has spanned multiple years, has spanned multiple promotions. But there is something poetically awesome about getting to draw a line under it at the end of the year in 2023 with Progress Wrestling. Because if you had told me a few years ago, oh, that's where it's going to culminate, I'm not entirely sure I would have believed you. But it feels like the perfect setting. And as far as I'm concerned, as soon as it is done, that's it. We're done. We're moving on, and I hopefully never have to see him again. That sounds like a
But
wonderful, a wonderful Christmas present.
and I guess then, progress, it's got a stature, it's grown over 10 plus years. You've wrestled a few times now, obviously with Tate, alongside being their lead ring announcer. You've got a lot of love. We love what you do there in both in the ring and as an announcer. But how did it all come about working for the promotion, and how you finding the gig in two different ways of working?
Yeah, so it's a weird one. So I was wrestling up in Liverpool with TNT, and after I'd had my match, I think I lost that day. That happens. And yeah, the promoter just said, "Oh, a couple of guys want to talk to you," and it was Martin and Lee, who, of course, at the time I didn't realize had bought out Progress. And we jumped on a Zoom call a week later, and they just said, "Listen, we're doing a big revamp, a big restart, and obviously the old guard has moved away. We need some and new people to come in and take their roles. Would you like to be the guy that sort of hosts the show?" And I was like, even before I got into wrestling, hosting was my quote unquote real job, right? So to just be affiliated with Progress in any sense was more than enough for me. Especially because many a time throughout my career, so many people had said, "Oh, they're not going to want any association with a YouTuber." Simon, always enjoy it when people fizzle me right down to my job because that's all I am. Obviously, there's no depth to me whatsoever. But the way I saw it was one, you get to be affiliated with Progress, one of, if not the biggest wrestling promotion in the UK. And two, as we've kind of seen now, it's a foot in the door, right? It's a foot in the door. It's a way to get your face around, to meet the right people. And hopefully it can just evolve from there. Again, come January next year, that will be 2 years of doing it. And it feels like that's the exact direction that it has gone in. So I'm very, very happy and very, very appreciative that it did kind of evolve the way that I hoped it to. And like I say, moving into 2024, I look forward to the balance maybe kind of shifting in the other direction too. Maybe somebody else can pick up the microphone for a while as I go and who knows what, run around like a fool, we'll say.
Well, I mean, this is the thing. You've clearly got grand ambitions. I've seen that there's been times where you've been on shows, you've been in other countries wrestling when there's been progress shows. There's that understandable and rightfully so, an ambition to wrestle more because you're very good in ring, mate. I love watching you in the ring. And
Thanks,
I,
man.
I I think everywhere you can to wrestle. What are your ambitions now about being an in-ring wrestler? What would you want 2024 to be like in terms of your in-ring competitiveness?
Yeah, so I do have a little bit of a plan. I don't have any grand ambitions apart from the obvious ones. People always say, "Oh, if a company signed you, would you say yes?" I mean, of course. Who would say, "Oh, no, thanks. I'm not interested." But they are that's like the top level kind of a thing, and I'm much more of a day to day kind of a guy. So to me, next year is just a case of yeah. So any kind of promotion where maybe I have a dual role, let's see if we can't let's see if we can't make it 80-20 in favor of wrestling. Let's see if we can't present a more, I don't want to say serious side, because I take wrestling very seriously, but maybe a more legitimate side to me as a professional wrestler. I still want to do the fun stuff, really enjoy all of that. But that's kind of my 2024 sort of written down in my head is, let's face bigger opponents. Let's face people that have crazy amounts of experience. Let's put ourselves in positions where if people are looking at it on a sheet of paper, I'm probably the underdog. right? Because I think only in those kind of equations can you then get better as a wrestler, test yourself, put yourself in uncomfortable positions. And that's what I want to do next year for sure is, I want there to be certain cards where people, send me a tweet or whatever going, Miller, this is ridiculous. Why are you fighting this guy? There is no way this can actually be happening. Um, so yeah, it's kind of one of those kind of scenarios where I'm not going to shift things around too much, but I just want to maybe be a little bit more laser focused with it. And to me, as well as a few other promotions, the Progress is the best place to do that because they have that roster and they have those opportunities and they expect a certain level from their performers. So, let's see if I can reach it or not. And if not, why not? Let's fix it and get to the point where you're accepted sort of in that world.
Yeah, and that makes total sense, man. And I think obviously you're known the world over, you're well respected, the great stuff you do with the ups and downs. And I think when you look at that in terms of now people looking at you as a wrestler and stuff like that, do you think that that's something you can still balance? Do you think it helps you when it comes to maybe making your way to bigger promotions? Because you're clearly known by those people in those different companies.
Well, yeah, maybe. Again, I like to try and stay as humble as I can with that stuff. But let's not pretend otherwise. My debut in professional wrestling was for Defiant, which was basically WCPW2. Nobody should be debuting in a company of that size. Do you know what I mean? I got in the ring, and the first person I saw across from me was Mark Haskins. It's like I don't. This is the strangest debut ever. So there's no way that I'm ever going to rag on my YouTube stuff. It gave me a foot in the door. It gave me an opportunity that I didn't deserve because I totally believe you have to work for certain things. I just worked at it a different way. And again, it was there. I'm not going to say no. That would be absolutely nuts. So absolutely it's helped me. And it still helps me today, right? It's why if I get put on a show 9 times out of 10, it's not Simon Miller. It's what culture Simon Miller. And I feel truly blessed to have that in my rear window. But again, everything has pros and cons, or dare I say it, ups and downs. Ha ha, funny, funny. But you have to take the rough with the smooth. You just do, which is why I like I think balance is the best possible word. Of course, I want to be the best professional wrestler I can be, but I also want to be the best host I can be. I want to be the best YouTuber I can be. I got into acting over the last few years. I want to be the best actor I can be. I'm very much inspired by people that wear multiple hats, and I think that's kind of a reflection of where we are, sort of in the modern day. Of course, you want to be able to dedicate yourself to one thing and sort of live and breathe that thing, but the space that I find myself in is that's just not how it works. One man band is very much a used term, and I pride myself on that, a lot of it, and I just want to be as good at all those things as I can possibly be, especially because you don't know what tomorrow could bring. I could get hurt, maybe the opportunities start winding down, and I think when you've got lots of things ticking over, you just put yourself in a good headspace to stay focused, stay motivated, and hope that these opportunities come. So, yeah, I love the challenge. I love the fact that if I fly to America to do a show, I've got to get SmackDown ups and downs done. So what do?
Yeah.
I find a camera, I find a hotel room, I get it done. I think that's great. I think it definitely keeps you humble, but it also definitely keeps your brain looking in the right direction. I never want to be distracted. You know what I mean? I want to use these years that I do have before maybe I'm a little bit too old to actually do it, get the most out of it, and then when we do get to the point we can't walk anymore, then we can look back and be like, all right, time to move on to something else.
Oh, mate, you're never too old. But I guess the hosting, hosting content and delivering stuff online to hosting in front of, sold out crowd in the electric ballroom. How did you first find that? And do you feel, has there been a change? Are you more confident in it now? Or was it something that you've already just felt, yeah, I'm really comfortable with this? Because it's a tough crowd, right? The electric ballroom can be a tough crowd.
Yeah, so I was lucky in the sense that I wasn't nervous about the hosting side, just because I've been doing that since 2014, 15. So I had the experience of doing the experience of doing that. So it's like, okay, I know what to do. I know that if I make a mistake, usually I'll catch myself falling and we'll be okay. The difference, obviously, with the Progress first show in the Ballroom in January 2022 was they were very used to Jim Smallman, right? He had done that role for many years. He'd made that role his own. He was, he was the furniture man. He was the foundations of Progress. So I was very intimidating in that sense for two reasons. One, difficult shoes to fill again. But two, I absolutely did not want to do what he did because that's never going to work. You don't want to be a parody. You don't want to be a copycat because people see right through that stuff. So yeah, I remember being behind the curtain or waiting to go out, and I literally had two different sort of scripts in my head. And one was, we'll go this direction if people are kind to you. And if they're not, and this is what I was expecting, I thought people were going to crap all over me. We can go in this direction too. But I think I've always kind of been a guy that as long as you're prepared, you can handle anything. And I had prepared myself for it. But absolutely, there was some apprehension there because it's kind of a myth in many ways. So many people have told me, and you are right too. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it, but there was this idea that oh man, Progress is a they're a really they are a difficult crowd to please, but everyone told me they're like this unique, specific crowd. They are just wrestling fans at the end of the day. Do you know what I mean? As long as you treat them with respect and tick those boxes, they'll respond in kind. So thankfully, I did go out there. Everybody was aware of the deal, and within about an hour, I think it all settled down. I could just sort of lean into what hopefully I was brought in there to do. And ever since then, it seemed to have gone all right. And that's great. That's awesome. Like, again, I wanted to bring something different and unique, and people seem to have enjoyed it. And that's my job. I tell all the wrestlers that too. And I don't mean this in a disparaging way. I mean it is an important way. Your job as a host is you're a tool to get the wrestlers over. You're there to warm up the crowd, and you're there to get the wrestlers over. And I think once we'd established that and people realized that I was happy to play that role, it all kind of clicked into gear. And look, I have had a really good time. And if I am able to wrestle more in 2024, and I have to leave the hosting behind a little bit, there will be some, I will miss it a lot. But again, as we already talked about, if a brand new opportunity comes up, you jump into that. Let's never stay comfortable, right? Let's always feel like we're progressing and moving forward.
Yeah, I bet. And I guess that roster is jam packed with talent. When you look at it, and you've seen everybody, for your hosting job for 2 years, you're calling everyone to the ring. Who is it that you look at and go, oh, I'd love to have a damn good match with them?
Oh man, no, it's literally everyone. I mean, I will throw some names in there because it's always crap when someone doesn't, but I won't say some names, and they should absolutely be on the list. I mean,
Right.
pretty much every single show I've done, you could take anyone and say, Miller, do you want to face them? Absolutely. I mean, a match with Spike Trevay would be
Off.
you're right, intimidating and
Yeah.
different and scary. A match with someone like Leon Slater, then all of a sudden you get a different. Can I hang with Leon Slater? I don't think I can, to be completely honest with you, but I'd like
You
to try.
can. It'd be great. Yeah.
Well, mention Mark Haskins. Obviously, Haskins is now back in Progress, so there's something there. Bullet is another guy that I've kind of been around the houses with. So do you know what I mean? But all those guys I've just mentioned, they're completely unique characters. Someone like Charles Crowley, all of a sudden you're moving in a different direction, and this is why Progress is so cool. There's Gene Money, there's the Lycos guys. It just keeps going and going and going and going, and that's just why I think it's so cool, because you could turn up to any show and be booked against someone. I mean, maybe you get in there like Luke Jacobs, and he tries to take my head off, but I would love to. I really, really would love to put myself up against those guys. And if I come short, that's okay. That's how we learn, and that's how we get better. And that's really what my groove is at the moment. Let's improve. Let's have this chat in December 2024. And people are like, man, Miller, you got better. Like, yeah, hell yeah. Let's keep doing that.
Yeah, I bet. And over those 2 years, what are your standout moments that you think you look back and go, that was amazing? Just watching, being a fan, being part of the company. What have you loved the most from the 2 years you've been involved?
Well, yeah, I mean, personally, it absolutely was unboxing last year. I mean, it kind of ticks all my wrestling boxes to be dressed as a holiday elf or a Christmas elf, whatever you want to call it. And then, for somebody to turn around and you be the surprise opponent, because you had that wonderful situation where I knew the deal and the fans knew the deal, but nobody was specifically saying it until it was the right time to say it. So, yeah, in many ways, that may never be topped because it's pure wrestling nonsense, which is what I love the most. But, I got to be there for all the Bike, Cara Noir stuff. I got to be there when Ilya Dragunov made his return in Manchester. That was that people went crazy for that. And the recent sort of mad matches between Spike and Kid Lycos have also been, but there's so many things that I'll be forgetting about. But yeah, and that is one of the cool things about having that job, is you get to see it all firsthand. And the amount of people that have been through there as well. Like, I've seen Swerve Strickland go through there. I've seen Jonathan Gresham go through there. QT Martial was there recently. Obviously, Big Damo, he's been totally smashing it. So it's not only what you get to see in front of the ring. I get to pick these dudes' minds and chat to them, and they're also giving with their time as well, and that always helps massively too. So yeah, and Nick Wayne, obviously, he's popped in and out, so it's cool to see him. And then he pops up on AEW television. So yeah, it's a cool position to be in, because you have to talk to everyone. That you have to get the information, and sort of through that you can also get some really good advice too.
Yeah, brilliant. So, Simon, thank you so much, man. Thanks so much coming on here. Good luck next weekend. Enjoy the holidays. And yeah, I hope you give Tate what he deserves, mate, because
Well, yeah, I say I will enjoy the holidays, but it's only I'm gonna be sitting there thinking of ways to maim him. Like this is going back to what we talked about as well at that unboxing show on December 30th. That is we're talking about things we want other people to take away. I know this sounds cheesy. I know it sounds over the top. I know it sounds like a wrestling promo, but I mean it. You know, throwing everything out the window. When that's done, I guarantee you that everyone is going to be like, I didn't know Simon Miller had that in him, and
boom.
they will look at me in a very very different way, and not because it's going to be cheesy carny wrestling stuff. I mean, I'll leave it there because I don't want to give too much away, but it's don't invite your kids. That's all.
Okay, right.
That's what I'm going to say. This is not going to be PG entertainment. I intend to show a side of myself that lots of people don't think exists, and I'm very very excited to do that too.
Simon, all the very best, man. We will see you on unboxing. Hope you win, and thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you. I appreciate
Thanks,
it.
man.
Take care. Have a good
Take care.
Christmas.
See you. Bye bye.